Hi ladies, just want to say a few words on focus, sometimes called Kavannah. But before we get started, I just want to mention that this will be Le'ulei Nishma Nehemiah Aryeh Peretz Halevi ben Eliyahu Halevi. His neshama should have an aliyah, please. I want to talk a minute about focus. Sometimes, as I said, the word Kavannah is used, and I think we're looking in the wrong direction when we're trying to when we think we are in charge of this. And I am looking right now at the words of Rev Shimshon David Pinchas in his Sefer Gates of Prayer. Sorry, I'm moving around a little bit. And I just want to say that a lot of times we think that we are in charge of when we're davening, how we're davening, whether or not there's a connection. But, as we learned from Rev Pinchas, that's really not the case. We actually learned it from Chazal across the board, actually. He quotes Bach in the Torah, which some may know is the precursor to the Shulchan Aruch. He writes, a person who prays needs to bring his heart to Kavannah, as it says, you shall prepare their heart, your ear will listen. That actually comes from Tehillim number 1017. I haven't looked it up to see, but that actually does come from Tehillim. So what is he saying there? When we start our tefillah with the idea that we want to connect with Hashem, which, by the way, is the true meaning of Kavannah, is connection, not concentration, not focus. It's connection. But if we start with the precipice that Hashem is in charge of how and when we connect, and we ask Him, we start by asking Him to help us with that connection. It brings us much closer to the actual connection. So what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that I have no responsibility in it? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that when I want to connect, say for example, I know that at 11 o'clock I'm going to be starting some tefillot, whether it's personal prayer, whether it's from a siddur, it doesn't matter. But I know that at 11 o'clock I'm going to start with tefillah. Do I run in at 11 o'clock and sit down and say, okay, I'm here. Okay, let's connect. It's the right time for me. No. First, we start by asking Hashem for the connection. And the other thing we really need to do is, before we get to the time when we're sitting down with Hashem, we really have to start thinking about Hashem. We have to start preparing ourselves to be standing in His presence, even with personal prayer, which is very informal. We still need to remember that we're talking to Hashem, and that we are, please God, in the presence of the Shekhinah. So it starts before we get there, with perhaps doing a mitzvah, perhaps giving a little tzedakah, perhaps preparing ourselves with the idea that I'm going now to speak with Hashem before we get to the place. And then once we get to the place, then we start by asking Hashem to prepare my heart that your ear would listen. Because when I sit down for personal prayer, I sometimes sit down with my own personal agenda. And sometimes that's not really what Hashem wants from me, nor is it in my best interest. So we really have to ask Hashem's help for the connection, and we have to ask Him to help us understand what our connection should be about. Okay? I should end with the bracha that each and every one of us should desire the connection, should prepare for the connection, and should feel and experience the connection every time we make our feeble attempts at connecting with Hashem.